Do we need to have the talk again? Well, apparently we do. When we pounce on someone, we go for the neck. I don't want to listen to their screams, it makes my head hurt, Harold. You don't want to make Daddy's head hurt now, do you? Now that's my good boy. And if you don't bite down too hard and their head doesn't fall off, you can listen to them gurgle. You like it when they gurgle, right? Yes, you do, you little monster, you. People always ask me about the Harold build, and since the original Harold video is a year old now, and I've also made some changes throughout the year, I thought I would make another video where I go through everything and I show you what I'm running on Harold so that you can copy the setup for yourself and make your own Hellhound. Now, just in case you don't know, Good Boy Harold is primarily a priming focused hound, so his purpose is to proc as much status on as many enemies as possible. He can do a lot of damage on his own though. With the right setup, he can actually clear Steel Path himself. It also doesn't matter which hound parts you use, they don't change that much stuff, so a random hound that you get from a sister is gonna be just fine. So here's the main setup, and it doesn't actually require that much format, which is good. A lot of the mods are fairly cheap, capacity-wise. We run Synergized Prospectus, which fires an electricity-based spark that will bounce between up to 7 enemies. We mainly use this because of how many enemies this can hit. And the same goes for Repo Audit. This is a massive 30-meter magnetic pulse that will disarm enemies. You will understand why we run these two once we get to the Bond mods, because there's a really nice interaction there. The next mod, which is Coolant Leak, is not entirely necessary, it just adds a little bit of extra priming, where every 10 seconds it will pulse and add 3 stacks of cold for the slowdown and extra crit damage taken. Then, because I mostly use high armor and health frames, I run Mediray for the extra healing, we run Primed Animal Instinct for huge amounts of loot and enemy radar, and then we have Link, Fiber and Vitality for armor and health. These give the pet a percentage of your Warframe's armor and health. Then comes one of the most important mods here, Manifold Bond. This allows the pet's abilities to proc status from its weapon. This is why we run Synergized Prospectus and Repo Audit. They have the most range and they hit the most enemies. It makes the pet essentially carpet bomb entire rooms with vast amounts of status. The next bond mod is optional. It's Duplex Bond and it spawns a copy of your pet that doesn't use abilities, just auto attacks for every 100 energy you use. I run this because I like having a lot of pets, but also Harold's auto attack does a truck ton of damage, so once you have like 3 or 4 Harolds running around, they're gonna be ripping stuff apart pretty hard. But you can definitely swap this out for something else, and to top it all off, we have Vacuum for, well, vacuum. Now, just in case you want to use this on a frame that doesn't have a ton of health and armor, so Mediray, Link Vitality and Link Fiber aren't going to be particularly useful, you can run the setup that I have on config B or simply have 2 setups like I do. This setup is pretty much the same, we run the same abilities, we run the same bond mods, but we run Shield Charger for shield recovery, as well as Metal Fiber and Enhanced Vitality. For the weapon I use the Batoten, but all 3 of the Hound weapons are fine, you can use either of them, doesn't really matter. Now I have 3 different setups here and they're all fairly similar. 2 of them focus on priming and the last one focuses on damage. For the mods here we have Condition Overload because, well, the pet procs a ton of status, so we might as well take advantage of that and increase its damage by quite a bit. We follow that up with Focus Radon for radiation, a Lasting Sting for status duration, Melee Prowess for status chance, Magnetic Rush for magnetic damage and attack speed, Volcanic Edge for heat and status, and then Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost for Viral and status. This gives us Viral, Impact, Puncture, Magnetic Heat and Radiation. The second setup is almost exactly the same as the first one, but we swap out Viral and Heat for Corrosive and Cold. And finally we have a third setup which is focused more on damage, so we have Condi Overload and Primed Pressure Point for an absolute truck ton of melee damage, True Steel for a bit of crit chance, Melee Prowess for status chance, Melementalist for status damage, and then Voltaic Strike, Volcanic Edge and Vicious Frost for blast and electricity. This is for when I don't need the priming or the armor strip from the previous 2 setups, so Harold can just focus on doing damage. Here we have a showcase of the first setup, so the Viral and Heat one, and you can see as soon as Harold starts throwing abilities around, the enemies are absolutely covered in status and they actually start dying rather fast. This is a pretty generic priming setup. We have Viral in there so the enemies take more health damage, a bit of cold to slow them down and make them take more crit damage, heat to strip a bit of their armor, magnetic to disrupt shields and overguard, as well as radiation to make the enemies fight each other. The second, Corrosive and Cold setup, is focused more on armor strip and crit damage, so we have Corrosive to strip their armor, Cold to make them take more crit damage, and once again magnetic to disrupt shields and overguard, as well as radiation to make the enemies fight each other. This is the least damaging of the 3 setups, but it's pretty reliable when it comes to armor strip. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, Emerald Archon shards don't work, so you can't strip their armor completely, but it's still really good. The third and final setup, as I mentioned already, is there for when I don't need the priming from the first setup or the armor strip from the second setup. So if I have armor strip and I have vital priming, I can just slap this on and watch Harold absolutely destroy everything on the screen. This is hands down my favorite pet setup. I love pets, I love minion builds, I've tried all of them, and this is the best one. It can do so many things so well. It's tremendous. If you don't have a Hellhound setup like this yet, go ahead and make it. You will not regret it, trust me. It's simply amazing, the damage is great, the utility is off the charts, and if you pair it up with a tanky frame, like if you're in Naros main, it's gonna be immortal as well. Like, the pet's not dying, look at it, it has more health than me. So go ahead, make your own Hellhound. It'll be fun. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Then I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, it means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.